Internet, good morning. My name is Pokemon Trainer Steve, aka Magnezone. Welcome back to another Pokemon Sun and Moon competitive moveset guide. This one for Primarina. If you do not want to be spoiled, please get out of this video now. There will be spoilers afoot. If you do not want to be spoiled, you have been officially warned. Let's get into it. So Primarina is the final evolution for Popplio. Popplio was initially the starter that everyone hated. Like, this is a fucking stupid looking seal thing. And then it became this. And everyone loved it again. I wonder why. Water Fairy is an interesting typing, something we haven't seen before, unless you're talking about a Azumarill, but I don't really consider Azumarill a fairy. It's a fucking fat blob. It was never fair before. Why does it get to be one now? Primarina was born and bred a fairy-type Pokemon. So let's get into the stats, the base stats of Primarina. We have 80 HP, 74 attack, 74 defense, 126 special attack, 116 special defense, and 60 speed. Another slow Pokemon. What is up, Alola region? Hello! Take a lap, all of you. Now, the EV spread that I have concocted for this particular moveset is 40 speed EVs, 252 special attack, 212 speed. That's going to put it at just enough to outspeed base 56s. Because at base 60, you don't really need to speed tie those, because you're worrying about Empoleon, never really max speed, Sylveon, never really max speed, Aegislash, you're not going to see that in competitive game anyway, and Magnezone, but those are usually scarfed as it is, so you're not really competing with anything base 60, but you want to outspeed base 55, that's where both Blissey and Crawdon is, Crawdon being the biggest. This is a Salac Berry Timid set. After a Salac Berry boost, you can hit 343 speed, which is enough to outspeed everything base 106 and below. Some notables being Salamence, Garchomp, Landorus Eye, Thunderous Eye, Mega Pinsir, Manectric, which you might be seeing in the same tier as this, Miss Magus. The list goes on and on. And this thing has enough special bulk to live a number of hits that allow it to go into Salac range and potentially clean up late game. But let's get into what its moveset is along with its ability. It's got the ability Liquid Voice and Torrent, of course. You know that one already. I don't need to explain it. Liquid Voice is if sound-based moves become water type. Now, we're unsure if they get the boost, but even if they don't get the boost, it is very nice to run Hyper Voice because it's both water, you get stabbed, and it hits through subs. Okay, of course, you can always run Scald. That gets 80 base power. That's fine for those burns, but I'm concerned right now about hitting through substitutes of Pokemon. So Hyper Voice with a water type, it's going to be fantastic. It's got Energy Ball, Ice Beam, and of course Moonblast, so it's a solid all-around special attacking moveset. And the dual stab ain't too bad either, with 95 base and 90 base moves looking at it. So to see exactly how effective this set might be, let's get into the calcs. The first thing we gotta do is look at that menacing Cresselia. Hyper Voice doing 26 to 30%, which is a quarter plus a little bit more to a moderately bulky and moderately invested Cresselia. Moonblast is going to be doing 27 to 32%, so it can break those subs if you opt to go for a Scald instead. But I do enjoy Hyper Voice because Cresses are known to sub a lot, and you want to be able to do damage through those subs. Even if they're combinding up, you're going to force them to be moonlighting and you're going to be forcing them to do not damage to see if they want to stay around, because they're going to keep getting hit through subs. Let's talk about now Garchomp, one of those Pokemon you're going to be outspeeding after you get the Salac boost. Earthquake isn't going to do anything to you, and that's to an invested Garchomp. Ice Beam will OHKO almost every variant of Garchomp possible. Of course, if they're not using a Yache Berry, but then we're getting into specific. But again, this is a Salac Berry Primarina, so what am I on, right? Even Moonblast can OHKO a non-invested Garchomp. So if you're fearing the Yache Berry, and you know it's maybe a scarfed Garchomp or an all-out offensive Garchomp, just fire up a Moonblast, take out that Garchomp, and you are good to go. But now let's get to Hippowdon. You see, Hippowdon is interesting because it is really bulky, and of course, again, one of my favorite walls. If you've been watching the videos, you know that I love Hippowdon in all of its glory. Energy Ball can be doing a lot. Hyper Voice not enough to OHKO, but Earthquake won't even be enough to OHKO you, and potentially late in the game, it could be enough to bring you down to that Salac boost, get that speed up, and all of a sudden you're outspeeding all of your opponent's Pokemon in the late game. That Water type Hyper Voice doing 77 to 91, that is to a heavily invested Hippowdon, and even then you got Ice Beam and Moonblast doing exceptional damage as well. So Hippowdon, you're weak to water. I don't know why you thought you could stand up against Primarina, but you could also be useful for Primarina in getting into Salac range. How about Landorus Eye? Another one of those Pokemon you'll be outspeeding if you can get into Salac range. 161 to 190%. It's also got that water type Hyper Voice protection if you are fearing that Yache Lando. And not even that, can OHKO you back with Earth Power, and perhaps based on the set, it can also bring you into Salic range. So you can 1v1 the Lando, it can hit you, you can Ice Beam and kill it, it can put you in a Salic range, and again, these Mons are offensive, they're dying to Primarina, and they can also put you into Salic range. Salic Bear doesn't sound so crazy now, does it? Okay, it might still sound a little crazy, but we'll just keep going with the calcs and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So let's talk about Magnezone. It can never, ever, 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 ever OHKO Primarina if it is Timid Max Special Attack. Now, a lot of Magnezones run Timid Max Special Attack with a Choice Scarf because they need to make up for its lack of speed, but it has an overwhelming special attack stat. If Magnezone's low enough, you could live any of those Timid Scarf Thunderbolts, kill it back with Hyper Voice as you go into Salic range. Now, of course, I'm assuming you kill it if you've already damaged in the prior. Obviously, 66% of Hyper Voice won't be able to kill it, but late game, you'll be living that Magnezone hit, of course, if you're at max HP, and even if you switch in and take Rocks damage, there's still a chance where you could take that hit. But if you had an absolute maximum amount of HP, and that Magnezone is Timid Max Speed without Specs or Life Orb, you are living that Thunderbolt every single time. Now let's go to Manectric, one of those Mons you might be seeing if Primarina gets tiered the way I think it's gonna get tiered. Moonblast will almost always OHKO Manectric with hazard damage. Hyper Voice will do enough damage as well, but Manectric can't even take you out of the Thunderbolt. So again, another Mon which you're weak to their stab can put you into Salic range. Do you see where I'm going with this? And finally, Thunderous Eye, a Pokemon who you will then again be outspeeding after Salic range. Can never kill you with a Thunderbolt if it is Timid Max Speed without a Life Orb. You see, a lot of Thunders have this, nasty plot leftover set, and this is what that set represents. A Timid Max Speed Thundurus will never OHKO you with Thunderbolt, putting you into Salic range. We have been through this before. But let's get into some other options. Let's say you don't want to run that Liquid Voice ability and you'd rather run Torrent. Well, if you combine both Torrent and Salic Bear, they have about the same range. They can both activate at once, and you can be at +1 speed and +1 special attack when using your Scald or Surf, because obviously you're not going to use Hyper Voice if you have Torrent, because you would just be losing that Liquid Voice for Hyper Voice, and you wouldn't be doing anything for you. Torrent would not help you in the slightest. You need a Water type move, but you already know that. But let's look at some other options. Now, again, we've hit that 56 base speed because we want to be able to outspeed Crawdon, who you might be seeing in that tier. And really, at 60, like I explained before, you're not going to be going up against any real Mon that you can actually outspeed, because they either don't run max speed or they're Magnezone and they're generally Scarfed anyway. This thing has a few support options you can maybe look into if you don't want to run offensive, such as Light Screen, Reflect, Disarming Voice, and Baby Doll Eyes. So it's got a couple support options if you don't want to run offensive. It's also got moves like Shadow Ball and Psychic, and of course you can always tech a Hidden Power. That's never a bad thing. But while its move pool isn't that diverse on the support side, it does make up for that with offensive options. And as you guys have seen with the calc, this set is tailored specifically for a Salic Berry boost late game sweeper. And it does a significant amount of damage to common OU threats. I'm digging Salic Berry Primarina, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I love reading comments, so please write your comments on why you think I'm wrong. I love discussion. I love hearing other people's opinions on Pokemon. And of course, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more, and I will see all of you guys next time. Peace.